Hi, everybody. It's Mary Lynn from the Changemaker Summit, and I'd like to welcome you to the show with and Barbara and Gardenhire-Mills is one of my guests, and we have known her for a while, and we've done some things together. So I'm really looking forward to what she has to say to you about helping you create your movement, and I'll let Barbara take it away, and then I'll be back at the end to close it all out. Okay, great. Thanks, Barbara. Go ahead.
All right, thanks, Marilyn. Well, creating a movement is a very interesting process that starts with authentically wanting to make change. And for me, the movement that my company is on right now is essentially a mission to change how we are treated um, and treat each other in the workplace. And I'll explain a little bit more about how that came in. But before I jump into that, to know the movement is really, and another movement that we also support is to know me. And basically, uh, purpose-built solutions and evolutions, our core purpose or why is to help you build on, find, achieve, develop your why. Um, you know, I've been a servant leader. I've assisted over 2,000 businesses over the course of my career and trained thousands more in different aspects of community economic development and business building, and learned a lot of lessons in those roles, which have been in corporate and nonprofit and even government roles. And members of my team are also comparably talented and experienced. And our navigators partner with people, whether it's companies or individuals, to help you find and clarify your purpose. Um, and then we work with you to overcome whatever challenges or break down barriers, both real and perceived, adjust mindsets, identify resources, and then we'll help you develop a plan to implement strategies and infrastructure that will help you grow, transform, evolve, and scale. And we offer both consultant services and coaching services. And one of the things that makes us very unique is what we do is stuff that we've been doing our whole careers. We have decades of experience in this, and thousands of hours of educations and certifications. So, you know, we we practice what we preach, and we don't pretend to know what we don't know, which is why we partner with people like Marilyn and others who can help us meet people where they are and take them where they want to go. So, because everyone has a story, and my mission, which has now become the company's mission, to change the world by creating a movement, and then also signing up to be an ambassador for a tangent movement, began with my story and all the events that led up to this particular chapter in my life. Like I said, I've been doing this work for 30 plus years. I myself am a multipreneur. I've worked in the nonprofit, I've worked in government, I actually worked on a White House project under the Obama and Trump administrations before creating my company. You know, went back to school late in life, got lots of initials behind my name, um, but developed a reputation as a partnership builder, an advocate, and a mentor, as well as a trainer, coach, and instructional designer. I have a talk show. Marilyn's been a guest on it. Episode's still available on demand and featured on my website. And I've also trained others in dealing with emergency responses in the media. It might surprise you to know that I'm a second degree black belt in a very traditional form of Okinawan karate called Kenshikai Goju Goju Jitsu. And in addition to that, sing, dance, and I'm a forever student, right? So I look at my cup as never too full for learning. And then as someone who represents multiple forms of diversity as a Black multiracial woman born to parents who got married at a time when it was still illegal in 7 states, who has a lot of other diversity characteristics. I even found myself sometimes in the role of super token. And that was actually the beginning of how I found my mission to change how things happen in the work world. Some of that even predates being a super token in the work world. I've survived things that no one should ever have to experience. And I apologize if this is triggering for some of you who are watching this video. But I've survived 2 different rape experiences. I live with physical limitations caused by spinal damage during a physical assault that took place on my job, and one of the safest jobs I've ever held in my entire career, in theory, in 2006. And I battled post-traumatic stress because of some of those experiences. And as a child, it was already hard enough because I had a version of obsessive compulsive disorder, and I was really introvert, afraid to even like pick up a phone and call someone. And in spite of all of that, my will to keep learning and growing and evolving really took me in this direction, and then and informed how I would actually get into coaching and operate my own business and things like that. And then with all of that having happened, I then got diagnosed. I was part of that first wave of COVID when nobody knew what was going on. No one. And everybody kept saying, you're not getting better and you should be. And what we now know, almost 4 years later, which is so hard to believe, is that there is such a thing as long COVID or post-acute sequelae of COVID. And, after all of the other things that I had been through, I found a way to say, okay, here we go again. How am I going to get through this? And a lot of that was due to the resilience that I experienced going through all those other things, and people that I had used my experiences to get through those circumstances to help them. And I realized, okay, it's time to do more. So I became a really powerful advocate in that movement. And I even started talking about, things like hidden disabilities. And while in grad school, I had worked really hard on looking at leadership. My Master's of Science is actually in executive leadership. Shout out to Champlain College. And I went back to school late in life in 2016 with a goal of getting my master's before I turned 50. So, and to prove to myself that, again, you can do anything that you set your mind to it. It's all about mindset and possibilities in some way, shape, or form. And I looked really, really closely after years of being in roles where I was often the only female or Black female, and looked at what really worked and what didn't work. And my first role in what we now call DEI was working in affirmative action. And I realized that so many companies were just doing what they believed was right, but they were doing it through a lens that included their own biases. And they just really didn't understand what they were doing, how they were doing it. And oftentimes they brought in people like me because of how we looked, or maybe because of our gender or other traits to solve problems. But it doesn't mean you're experienced in dealing with these issues. And all of that combined led up to me and my team and our mission to change how we do things in the workplace, which included completely revamping how we approach any kind of DEI initiatives. So much so that we actually changed the acronym itself. We turned it into an acronym called SEED. And I imagine Marilyn, I don't know if this is a good place for you to ask me questions about that, or if you want me to just continue.
Yeah, I
Kind of
can ask you some questions.
sure.
So tell me what seed is and how are you using that in the workplace?
So CEED stands for civility, inclusion, equity, and diversity. And it's interesting because in bringing forth this concept, I've actually found others who believe very similarly
Mm-hmm.
to my company and our approach. But then I've encountered some that really are so entrenched in the idea of what they want to do that they can't get out of their own way.
Mm.
And a lot of that is contributing to both failed initiatives within companies, but
Mm-hmm.
also the backlash that you see around what is really just a movement to try and create a sense of belonging for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And we start with civility in large part because of what I personally experienced.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was in a leadership position in a corporate role. I had worked in communities that have experienced disinvestment, communities where police won't even go. And I got physically assaulted in a courtroom in a leadership team event where all of the cervical discs in my neck were herniated. And the only thing worse than that was how I would be treated afterwards
Mm-hmm.
by that company in its effort to protect itself. Um, so, one of the things that I've realized over my career and being brought in to fix different environments is a lot of times companies are bringing in diverse candidates
Mm-hmm.
and the company's not ready for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not.
Yeah.
You know, they're bringing them into an existing cultural structure that's often got its own issues
Mm-hmm.
and trying to basically fit this, round peg into a square hole.
Mm-hmm.
And they've made no real efforts around that choice. So,
Mm-hmm.
what we do is we go into companies and we start with civility first. Let's fix the house before we move in anybody else. And we address a lot of the workplace issues. I don't have the most recent statistic, but I know when I was assaulted, I learned that 73% of workplace injuries back in 2006 were employee on employee violence, which was just astounding to me when you consider all of the different industries out there. And so much bad behavior goes unaccountable.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody that is experiencing this, and even people who are witnessing this, are affected by it.
Mm-hmm.
And it really creates a tremendous amount of distrust of leadership in companies. And really, since the pandemic, we're really seeing it now, right?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of people who just they want something different, and it's not just showing up in terms of their behavior; it's showing up in the mental health statistics.
Mm-hmm.
Studies have been done by Gallup, by Positive Intelligence, by others. Um, with the exception of Asian countries, 1/3 of people are in the workplace today identify as having some kind of mental health crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And in Asia, it's 1/4, a little bit lower, but still really unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I had this idea of starting with civility, and I was doing it in my own workplaces and leadership roles,
Mm-hmm.
and then focusing on equity to make sure everybody who was already there felt like they were included, that they were getting some level of equity,
Mm-hmm.
and then looking at bringing in diverse hires. After going through a leadership program and graduating from grad school and kind of flushing some of these ideas out, I brought in an intern who was struggling to get an internship because she was brought here. Her name's Sarai. She was brought here from Mexico as a child. You know, we hear all about immigrants
Mm-hmm.
and how they're trying to destroy our country. This young girl at the age of 3 and her brother at the age of 5, parents fled Mexico for their lives. And so desperate to save their children, their parents handed them off to complete strangers to get them to safety. And they would not be reunited for several years. That's how much their parents cared so much about them that they wanted them to be safe, even if it meant not being with them.
Mm-hmm.
And this young woman who I offered an internship to, I gave her all my research and said, come back to me and tell me how you think as a company we should move forward with approaching civility, inclusion, equity, and diversity in a workplace. And she came back and she said, honestly, she had every reason to pick anything.
Right.
She came back and she said, I think we should start with mental health.
Wow.
Because of how so many people are suffering in silence. It's a massive hidden disability that's not being adequately addressed. And I said, okay, let's get started.
Mm-hmm.
And paving the way to civility, inclusion, equity, and diversity was born.
Mm.
And at the same time, I was going through a coach program with positive intelligence with Shirzad Shami. And I started seeing parallels because so much of what happens today when it comes to mistreatment of others, and you know this better than anyone, you do hard at work, is really about the person who's perpetrating it, not the victim they're targeting it.
Yeah.
And well, everything about positive intelligence is fixing from the inside out. And so we started looking at this and saying, okay, we're doing some of this informally, but what if we took a program where we really addressed what's going on with people inside as part of addressing creating environments of workplace belonging, civility, inclusion, equity, and diversity, so that we're coming at it from inside out and outside in. And that's when our movement really, truly started to take shape. And more people started wanting to know more about how we're doing this. And then I would actually find out that positive intelligence is doing this parallel work, coming at it from positive intelligence. Now, how do we get in and fix it on the inside? And we were already inside and we were looking, okay, now how do we bring in these other tools? And going seed planting became
planting seeds.
Planting seeds.
Yeah. Planting seeds of kindness.
Yes. And kindness is such a huge part. And I know this is going to be airing during Kindness Week.
Yeah.
And you are the queen of planting seeds of kindness. So you're planting seeds of kindness. We're planting seeds. And so it all comes together because at the end of the day, so much of this, so much of what we talk about, so much of what we delve into is everybody goes in armored up. And it takes stripping off that armor in environments that really do have to be psychologically safe. So it has to start with a real true commitment, not a check the box performative. I'll never forget the story you told me about the company that wanted to buy your program so they could say that they bought a program. What is that? How is that going to do anything? It's not. We will not even bring this into a company unless they're willing to see this as a verb that's willing to do the work.
Right.
And they're out there, regardless of what you hear in the media.
Yeah.
They're out there because there are real financial benefits to creating environments where people truly feel like they are respected and valued and they belong.
Absolutely. Truly. Yeah. So can you just quickly share an example of how you've gone into a company? You don't have to name them or anything, and where you started with them, and then maybe a segment of where you ended up with them.
Sure. Interestingly, it was in some ways pre this program. as I was really starting to formulate this, I was hired into a role that I was asked to come in and fix them. I mean, literally, when I got there that day, the director said, "Okay, you're here, time to fix us." And then the director and the deputy director proceeded to spend the next 90 minutes telling me everything that was wrong with the people that were on my team, their motivations or lack thereof, why they were even there. I mean, I'm not kidding when I say this went on for 90 straight minutes of hearing this one's a problem. This one came in under this special program and you really can't expect much from this person and that. And I said, okay. So they just spent 90 minutes trying to convince me to think like them. So what am I going to do with this information? And the minute I walked out the door, I threw it away mentally. I said, okay, I really, truly at this point want to hear from the people that I'm going to be working with. And I got permission to do an entire district office survey from the team about what they liked, what they didn't like. My dog, sorry. What they liked about their jobs, what they didn't like about their jobs, what they thought was needed, their expertise, what they needed development was all confidential. And then also over the next couple of days, I did a lot of open-ended questions. I love the power of the open-ended. And what I learned, and one of my favorite quotes, shout out to Joe Colantonio, who coined this phrase to this day, I firmly believe is what people say is about them, and what we hear is about us. And what I got in that first 90 minutes was definitely about them. And as I started to ask open-ended questions about the people that were relying on me to be their team, I learned so much, so many things that you couldn't, they didn't even know. Like one of my team members that I was told came to this particular job through a welfare to work program and not have any expectations of. When denied training, this team member had gone out on her own, gotten education, become a realtor, joined Toastmasters to improve her speaking skills. And when I advocated for her to be able to respond to walk-in clients as they came in to ask questions about what we did and did not do as a program, at first I was told, we can't have her represent us. And I said, wait, excuse me. I said, we're based in an urban location. She looks more like anybody else walking through this door. You didn't even know she was doing all of this personal development work because you never asked. Who are you to say she's not capable? We don't even yet know what she's capable of because she's been ignored for 15 years. 15 years. And I would have conversations like this over the next 3 years and grew the team. And then, wow, imagine this, when you treat people like human beings and you give them flexibility and you advocate for things like allowing them to work from home or not beating them over the heads when they make a mistake, because you only learn through mistakes. The productivity of the team increased immensely. I mean, like literally when I say that it more than tripled, it more than tripled. And the only reason I moved on from that role is because I was offered an opportunity to go work on this White House initiative where I was going to get to do similar work with an entire city that was closer to where I lived. But to this day, I will run into different people that I interacted with in that role that say, and I left it in 2016, and they will say, you changed X or you changed Y for me, for my business. The help you provided. We miss you. There's a vacuum. The way you showed up, the way you met people where they were, really changed the whole perception of what that particular entity could do and what it was capable of. And for several years after, it really continued to sustain itself until subsequent decisions were made. And, unfortunately, some of that work was undone.
Yeah, that's sad when the work is undone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it really is.
yeah. I so appreciate you sharing your story and your life experiences and your honesty and your empathetic and your compassion and being a real genuine advocate for people. I think that's really important. So thank you so much, Barbara, for being on the call today with me. It's so appreciated. And so, by the way, if you want to reach out to Barbara and work with her on her company, her information will be below this video. You can grab it there. She is also offering a PDF or something about some questions about a presentation that you're going to be doing as well. Is that right?
So below this presentation, you'll be able to get general information about our company, a PDF of a version of a presentation that touches on a lot of the things that I just touched on.
Right.
And also gives you a sample of some an upcoming training event that we're going to offer. And then we also have 2 upcoming free information sessions about those, which also include access to a free assessment.
Right.
That we won't even see. It's completely confidential. We won't ever see the assessment unless you choose to continue on and go through our programs. But it's yours to keep.
Great. Thank you so much, Barbara. So generous. So thank you again.
It's been an honor.
Yeah.
An honor, all mine, to be a part of anything that you do.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you, everybody. We'll talk to you everyone soon. Thank you.
All right.